Jake Morrison had seen his fair share of strange planets, but Xirelia Prime was in a league of its own. As his shuttle descended through lavender clouds, the surface shimmered with a bioluminescent glow that pulsed in rhythm with the wind. Forests of tall, crystalline trees whispered to one another in harmonic tones, and the skyline of the capital city Valthera resembled a cathedral of living glass. It was beautiful, surreal, and unsettling all at once. He wasn't here for beauty, though. He was here to advise on soil stability and atmospheric balance, terraforming science, clean numbers, predictable variables. That's what he'd signed up for. Jake stepped off the transport ramp into a soft breeze that smelled faintly of citrus and ozone. His boots touched down on a landing pad that shimmered beneath his weight. Automated drones scanned his ID chip, and within moments, a tall Xirelian greeted him with the calm precision of a diplomatic AI. "I am Tolar Vale," the crystalline figure said, his translucent skin catching the light in gentle rainbows. "Welcome to Xirelia Prime, Technician Morrison." Jake gave a polite nod, pulling his travel bag tighter over his shoulder. "Thanks. I've reviewed the station schematics. I'd like to begin my field rotation tomorrow." "Of course," Vale said smoothly, leading him into a corridor that pulsed gently with light as they walked. "First, however, we must finalize your integration protocols." Jake furrowed his brow. "Integration?" Vale didn't break stride. "As per our cultural agreements, all long-term Earth-based consultants must pair bond with a Xirelian citizen. It is a matter of planetary social cohesion." Jake stopped walking. "I'm sorry, did you just say pair bond?" Vale turned back, his expression as unreadable as his crystalline features. "Correct. A life match has been selected for you through our resonance algorithm. It ensures optimal compatibility for emotional support, social balance, and spiritual harmony." "I'm only here for 18 months, Jake said, blinking. "This is a temporary assignment." "Time does not limit the bond," Vale replied calmly. "You will meet your companion shortly. She is most eager." Before Jake could protest, the wall to their right split open like the petals of a blooming flower, revealing a lounge filled with soft ambient light and the scent of something sweet and unfamiliar. And there, standing barefoot on a luminous carpet, was a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a dream and into his confusion. She was shorter than he expected, barely 5 feet, but held herself with the grace of someone who belonged everywhere. Her skin was a soft violet sheen, glowing faintly under the crystalline lights. Golden curls spilled down her shoulders, catching every flicker of color in the air. Her eyes, large, brilliant, and undeniably intelligent, locked onto his with unflinching warmth. "Greetings, life-matched companion," she said in perfect English, her voice musical and smooth. "I am Kira Valis, and I am absolutely delighted to meet you." Jake opened his mouth. Nothing came out. She stepped forward, holding what looked like a basket woven from strands of glowing thread. Nestled inside were iridescent fruits and a translucent orb that pulsed like a heartbeat. "I brought you bonding gifts and our ceremonial contract," she said, offering the basket. "Also, a list of possible honeymoon sites. The crystal glades are optimal for new resonant unions." "Honeymoon?" Jake finally managed, his voice cracking slightly. "Of course," Kira said, stepping closer, her smile as radiant as the lights around her. "We leave in 3 days. Don't forget your ceremonial wrap, husband." Jake didn't sleep that night. He tried. He shut off the ambient lighting, adjusted the gravity mattress to Earth standard, even activated a white noise loop of Terran rain. None of it helped. Every time he closed his eyes, all he saw was her Kira Valis, standing barefoot under a crystalline ceiling, speaking as if their future had already been carved into the stars. Ceremonial wrap? Honeymoon? Husband? He'd read the cultural dossier during the flight, overskimmed it, really, but nowhere had it mentioned mandatory marriage. He was a terraforming consultant, not some interstellar groom, and yet, something about the way. She said his name still echoed in his chest. The next morning, the sun, or whatever passed for it on Xirelia Prime, rose behind the shimmering skyline. Hazy violet light filtered into Jake's living quarters, illuminating the metallic edges of the alien furniture. He dragged himself into the kitchenette, still in his sleep shirt, hoping for caffeine. He stopped dead in the doorway. Kira was already there. She stood by the counter, humming softly to herself as she stirred something that shimmered with silver steam. Her golden curls were pulled back with an iridescent tie, and she wore a flowing wrap that matched the soft lavender of her skin. The apartment's smart system, usually cold and responsive, seemed warmer in her presence, its lights pulsing in time with her hum, like the entire structure was breathing in sync with her. "Good morning, maid husband," she said without turning. "I hope you slept well." Jake cleared his throat. "Kira, what are you doing here?" She turned, smiling with genuine joy. "I live here now. Didn't Administrator Vale explain? As part of our bond, we cohabitate. It helps accelerate resonance." "I wasn't aware I had agreed to any of that," he said, trying not to sound accusatory. But failing. Her expression didn't change. If anything, it grew softer. "You haven't agreed yet, but the pairing process has begun, and I want you to feel safe." He ran a hand through his hair, sighing. "Look, Kira, I don't even know you." "That's the beauty of resonance," she said, stepping toward him and gently handing him a steaming cup. "It doesn't require knowing, just feeling." Jake took the drink. Reluctantly, it smelled like cinnamon and starlight. The warmth seeped into his fingers, grounding him for a moment. "I looked up Xirelian bonding protocols," he muttered, sipping. "This whole mate assignment thing, it's not just about culture, is it? There's a deeper reason." Kira didn't deny it. She set the stirring rod down and leaned against the counter, her gaze drifting toward the windows. "This planet thrives on harmony, not just physical balance, but emotional resonance. The structures you see, the forests, the cities, even the weather, they all respond to collective emotion. Left unchecked, discord can corrupt the ecosystem itself." Jake blinked. "You're saying the planet is alive?" "I'm saying it listens," Kira said, finally turning her eyes back to his. "And lately, it's been restless. Which is why bonds like ours aren't just ceremonial. They're stabilizing forces. Emotional gravity fields." He stared at her. The words sounded insane. And yet, when she looked at him like that, like he was already part of some hidden symphony, he couldn't argue. He spent the day at the terraforming site trying to bury the conversation under numbers. Atmospheric readings, soil acidity, gravity deviation. But his mind kept drifting back to Kira, to the way her voice carried through the apartment, to how the walls of his quarters pulsed brighter when she was near. Torin, his supervisor, noticed. "You look like you've been hit by a resonance wave," the older man joked, handing Jake a datapad. "Everything okay at home base?" Jake hesitated. "Define okay." Torin grinned. "Ah, she moved in, didn't she?" Jake looked up, startled. "You know? Everyone knows. It's protocol. Happens to all long-term off-worlders. Usually they assign someone polite and distant, just to meet the quota. But you got Kira Valis." Jake narrowed his eyes. "That's supposed to mean something?" Torin sobered. "Yeah, it means someone up top thinks your connection's not just for show. Kira's not a ceremonial partner. She's a crystal harmonic." Jake frowned. "I thought the harmonics were extinct." "They were," Torin said, "or close to it, but a few bloodlines survived. And if she's one of them..." Well, let's just say this bond might not be about you at all. The ground shifted under Jake's feet, not physically, but emotionally. The more he learned, the less sense it made. Why him? Why this planet? Why was everything Kira's voice, her presence, her touch starting to feel like it was woven into his nerves? He returned to his quarters that evening with a million questions swirling in his mind. The lights activated before he even stepped inside, and Kira greeted him with a smile, holding two slender devices that looked suspiciously like wands. What now? He asked, wary. Trust-building exercises, she said sweetly. These are for harmonic training. I teach you how to move your energy in rhythm with mine. Kira, I'm not even sure I believe in harmonic energy. You don't need to believe in it, she said, stepping close and placing one of the crystalline rods into his palm. You just need to feel. When their hands touched, the crystals pulsed. Slowly at first, then faster, glowing brighter. Jake felt a warmth rise up his arm, not from heat, but from resonance. Like a part of him was being tuned, gently and insistently, to match hers. She stepped back, eyes gleaming. We're already synchronizing, Jake exhaled shakily. What happens when we're fully synchronized? Kira's smile deepened. Then we can enter the glades, the crystal glades? He asked, confused. She nodded. Our honeymoon destination. It's where our bond completes. You're serious about this? She stepped closer, her voice soft. I wouldn't have chosen you if I wasn't. Jake's heart skipped. Wait, you chose me? But Kira only smiled, turned, and disappeared down the hallway, her voice echoing faintly behind her. We leave in 3 days, Jake. Don't forget your ceremonial wrap. The rain came without warning. Jake stood on the edge of the terraforming plateau, his data scanner forgotten in one hand as droplets fell from a sky that moments ago had been clear. But this wasn't ordinary weather. The rain shimmered like liquid glass, each drop refracting light into tiny rainbows. And it wasn't just falling, it was singing, not loud, not obvious. But there was a hum, an eerie resonance vibrating in the air, as if the storm itself were part of a symphony only half audible to human ears. Torin called out from behind. Get inside, Morrison. Harmonic rain's unpredictable. Jake didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the horizon where the clouds swirled in unnatural spirals. And in the center, just for a moment, he could have sworn he saw a glowing shape, massive and shifting, retreating into the sky. Later, drenched and shivering, Jake sat inside his quarters with a blanket around his shoulders. The rain had stopped the moment he stepped inside. The apartment lights flickered uncertainly, then steadied. Kira stood beside the central control crystal, fingers pressed gently against its surface. Her presence immediately soothed the air, like she could still the storm inside the walls and inside him. You saw it, didn't you? She asked quietly. Jake looked up. You mean the weather system that decided to sing and shimmer like a broken chime? Yeah, I saw it. No, Kira said, kneeling before him. I mean the shape in the clouds. His silence was all the answer she needed. I was hoping we'd have more time, she whispered. For what? Jake asked. Kira, what's happening here? Why do I feel like I've walked into a dream that doesn't know it's a nightmare yet? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she retrieved two small, curved instruments from her basket, each no longer than a palm and carved from translucent stone. She handed one to him, her fingers lingering. This is called a resonator. We use it during the movement of hearts, a harmonic ritual where two bonded partners align their emotional frequencies. It's the only way to safely travel through the crystal glades without disturbing the land's pulse. Jake held the instrument like it might bite. Let me guess. If we misalign, we explode? Worse, she said gently. We wake the old memory beneath the glades. His brows furrowed. You're talking about the entity in the clouds? Talking about the planet itself, she rose slowly. You're not just part of a pairing, Jake. You're part of a balance. And something about you, your presence, has stirred an ancient resonance dormant since before even our oldest elders. He stared at her. You mean to say I woke up a sleeping planet? Not exactly, Kira said, stepping closer. But your bond with me. It might be the only thing that keeps it asleep. Jake stood abruptly. This is insane. I came here to work with soil, not spirits. Kira's voice trembled. Then why does your touch make the crystal sing? He froze. I've never met someone who caused the resonance to respond like you do, she continued. The walls in this apartment, the lights, even the rain, they're not reacting randomly. They're harmonizing with you. You're not just a technician, Jake. You're a catalyst. His chest felt tight. And the algorithm? The one that matched us? Kira hesitated. Jake's voice rose. Tell me the truth. She stepped forward, placing a hand on his chest. The algorithm didn't choose you. I did. The silence that followed cracked like thunder inside his head. I accessed the resonance profiles of all incoming Earth consultants, she confessed. It's forbidden. But when I saw yours, Jake, I heard something. A melody that I thought only existed. In legend, I knew. I felt you were the one. Jake took a step back, the room spinning. You manipulated the match. I was desperate, Kira said, voice breaking. My people are fading. The resonance is weakening. We've lost so much. I thought, maybe with you, it could return. I didn't expect to fall in love so fast. The words hit him like a wave. Love? Already? He turned to the window. Outside, the twin moons were rising. One glowed silver, the other a soft red, both reflected in the glass like distant eyes watching his decision. I don't know what to do, he admitted, barely a whisper. Then let me show you, she said, holding out her hand. Let me teach you the dance of harmonics, tonight. If you still want to walk away after, I won't stop you. Jake looked at her outstretched hand. Her eyes weren't pleading. They were full of hope. He took her hand out. An hour later, they stood beneath a crystal archway in the common atrium of their district, lit by hundreds of softly glowing harmonic stones. The floor beneath them vibrated subtly, reacting to their movements. Kira held the resonator between them. Follow my breath. Feel the energy, not just the motion. They moved in slow, spiraling steps, circling, drawing closer. The resonator pulsed with light, sinking to their heartbeats. Jake felt something shift deep in his chest. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition. A silent harmony pulling him toward her like gravity. As their hands met, a wave of energy burst from the crystal floor, scattering light like shooting stars across the atrium ceiling. Kira's eyes widened. It's happening. Jake felt it too, a presence awakening, ancient and curious, stirred by their resonance. And somewhere, deep beneath the planet's surface, something rumbled. The next morning, Jake awoke to the haunting sound of crystal wind. Not air, not music, but something in between, a low harmonic whisper drifting through the ventilation system of their quarters. When he stepped onto the balcony, the city of Valthra looked the same, yet felt completely altered. The towers still gleamed under the twin moon's soft light, but the harmony in the air had become discordant. Like a familiar song slipping off key. Kira was already up. She stood barefoot on the balcony's edge, arms raised slightly, palms glowing faintly with lavender light. Her golden hair whipped gently around her face, her eyes closed in concentration. The city's pulse echoed faintly with her breath. Jake didn't speak. He watched. Watched the way the apartment's lights flickered with her movements. Watched how the wind responded to her presence like a tamed beast waiting for a command. He had stopped pretending this was coincidence. When she finally opened her eyes, She looked at him with both weariness and joy. The planet's frequency dipped again. I had to correct the flow. Jake stepped forward slowly. You're doing that manually? Kira nodded, but her shoulders drooped slightly. It's getting harder. The harmonics have always needed balance, but lately, it's like something is pushing back. Jake hesitated. What happens if it breaks completely? Kira didn't answer. Instead, she said, Come with me. There's something I need to show you. They left the city by skimmer just after mid-morning. The vehicle hummed softly beneath them as they soared above the violet tree canopy. Beneath, the surface of the trees, faintly glowing creatures moved like fireflies trapped in syrup. In the distance, bioluminescent rivers coiled through the landscape like veins beneath living skin. Kira guided them toward the edge of a crystalline cliff overlooking a structure unlike anything Jake had seen before. It's a memory vault, she said, the last of its kind. It houses the songs of our ancestors, the recorded harmonics of Xirelia's past. Jake followed her into the structure. It felt ancient. The walls pulsed faintly with internal light, illuminating thousands of crystal shards embedded along the walls. Each one emitted a faint note, a soft echo of something long gone. It sounded like a ghost choir. Kira led him to the central chamber where a wide, shallow basin stood filled with liquid crystal. She knelt beside it and placed her hand on the surface. The liquid flared to life, shimmering into an image of memory projection. Jake watched as an older version of Kira, a woman who looked so much like her it stole his breath, stood at the center of a massive temple surrounded by hundreds of citizens. Her voice rang out in a melodic chant, and the planet responded. The city pulsed in harmony with her. But in the distance beyond the glow, a shadow loomed, a shape too large to define. It moved, and the entire city dimmed. Who is she? Jake whispered. My mother, Kira replied, the last living grand harmonic. She died stabilizing the resonance when the first rift opened. Jake turned to her, voice sharp. Rift? The veil between our world and what lies beneath it. We call it the Dissonance, a place of corrupted harmonics, a place not meant to exist. Jake stepped away from the basin, hands shaking. Why didn't you tell me any of this? You made it sound like I was just part of some spiritual ceremony. But this is warfare. Kira stood slowly. It's both. You were brought here because the algorithm detected a frequency in you, a rare, human harmonic pattern that matches mine. Together, we amplify the field. Alone, I can delay the break. But together, she looked up at him with both hope and fear. Together, we might be able to heal it. Jake took a deep breath, trying to slow the rush of adrenaline pounding in his chest. So I'm not just a technician, a patch for a planet on the verge of collapse? You're more than that, she said. You're the first true bond this planet has seen in a century. You weren't chosen by mistake, Jake. You were meant to come. His thoughts reeled. All this time he believed he was here to fix machines, calibrate atmospheric processors, and adjust soil pH levels. Now he was being asked to resonate with the soul of a planet. I need air, he muttered, stepping out of the chamber. Kira followed, but gave him distance. Outside, the wind had picked up. The cliff beneath them began to hum, a low, bone-deep vibration that didn't come from the skimmer. Jake turned and saw her bracing herself on the stone, her hands glowing. It's happening again, she gasped. A rupture's forming. He ran to her, grabbing her shoulder. What do I do? Touch the ground beside me, she said through gritted teeth. Link with me. Trust me. Jake dropped beside her and pressed his hand to the crystalline rock. The hum surged instantly, traveling up his arm like electricity. His heartbeat stuttered, then synced with hers. The vibration evened out. The wind stilled. The ground beneath them quieted, For a moment, it felt like the planet exhaled. They stayed like that, breathing together, bound in a shared moment of impossible calm. Kira leaned against him, her body trembling with exhaustion. "You stabilized it," she whispered. Jake looked at his hand. It was still faintly glowing. "No," he said quietly. "We did." She looked up, her expression caught between relief and sorrow. "You're changing, Jake. You're becoming part of this world, and the deeper your resonance grows, the harder it will be to leave." Jake didn't answer, because he already knew. Something inside him had shifted, and he didn't know if he could go back. The skimmer glided low over a sea of mist, its crystal rotors barely whispering above the pale blue fog. Beneath them stretched a landscape unlike anything Jake had ever seen, even in his deepest earth-based dreams of the alien sublime. Rolling fields of luminous grass bent and pulsed with rhythmic waves as if the planet were breathing in time with their passing. Towering crystal formations jutted from the ground like ancient gods frozen in mid-song, catching the light of Xirelia's twin moons and refracting it across the clouds in endless kaleidoscopic patterns. Kira stood at the bow of the vessel, wrapped in ceremonial travel robes of soft azure that shimmered with threads of harmonic silver. Her hair, loose and golden, trailed behind her like a comet. In her hand she held a pulse crystal, its light synchronized to their shared resonance. Jake watched her silently from the rear of the skimmer. The air between them had grown heavier with each mile traveled, charged with anticipation, mystery, and something deeper, more primal. He could feel his heartbeat sinking with the planet now, without effort. And with every breath, it was harder to remember Earth, or why he ever thought of leaving. "We're almost there," Kira said softly. Glancing over her shoulder, Jake moved beside her, staring ahead. Through the final wall of mist, the crystal glades revealed themselves. They weren't fields or gardens. They were alive. Dozens, hundreds of massive crystalline towers rose from the earth, their surfaces vibrating with soundless songs. Rivers of liquid light flowed between them, fed by glowing springs that shimmered with the resonance of ancient energy. The very air hummed with layered harmonics that wrapped around Jake's senses like a lover's whisper. He could feel it in his bones. The planet recognized him. "This place," he began, but Kira was already stepping off the skimmer, her bare feet touching the soft, mossy ground with reverence. "It's sacred," she said. "This is where bonds are completed, where hearts become one with Xirelia. It's not just a honeymoon, Jake. It's a ritual of eternal choice." They walked together through a narrow path of singing stones. As they passed, the crystals pulsed in response, different colors, different notes. Jake's presence seemed to stir them in ways Kira hadn't expected. Some of the formations, long thought dormant, began to resonate again. Her eyes widened with wonder and a flicker of fear. "They're responding too strongly," she whispered. Jake turned to her. "What does that mean?" "It means the planet's been waiting, not just for any bond, for this one." Their path ended at a circular clearing, ringed by obsidian black crystals and a shallow pool of silver water. At the center stood a platform of woven light threads of energy floating in midair, like a web spun from starlight. Kira stepped forward and unwrapped a bundle she carried beneath her robe. Inside lay 2 ceremonial resonance cuffs carved from Avdema soulstone, the rarest of Xirelian materials, only found in the deepest parts of the planet's harmonic core. Jake stared at them. "Are those supposed to go on our wrists?" Kira nodded. "Once placed, they bind our frequencies permanently. There is no reversal, no escape." Jake hesitated. This wasn't symbolic. This was real, irreversible. He'd felt it in the skimmer, in the soil, in his own blood. Something ancient was waking, and it was responding to them. Kira met his gaze, unflinching. You don't have to do this, Jake. You can walk away now. But if you step onto this platform with me, the bond becomes eternal. We become anchors for the harmony of this world." Jake looked at her, not just as a beautiful woman, not just as someone who called him mate husband with a playful smile. He saw the weight she carried, the burden, the hope, and the fear that she would have to face it alone. He stepped onto the platform. The instant his foot touched the woven light, the air shifted. Wind erupted from the trees in all directions. The crystals rang like 1,000 temple bells. The sky above them darkened not with clouds, but with memory. Shapes moved above the moons, faint, colossal, and ancient. The same presence Jake had glimpsed in the rain. Kira gasped as her pulse crystal flared in her palm. "It's here. The Dissonance is watching." Jake took her hand. "Then let it watch. Let it see us finish what your mother started." Together, they fastened the cuffs onto each other's wrists. Light burst from the ground, engulfing the circle. The resonance deepened, layering into a thunderous symphony. The pool of silver water rose, swirling around them like a living ribbon, encasing their bodies in waves of glowing memory. Visions flooded Jake's mind, not just of Kira, but of all who came before. Past bonds, lost harmony. A civilization, once in perfect balance with its world, until something fractured the song. Something buried beneath. Their energies joined. Their cuffs locked. And in that final moment of fusion, the crystals around them lit with blinding brilliance and then cracked. Not shattered. Split. From beneath the glade. A massive tremor rolled through the earth. The ground quaked. The platform beneath them dimmed. Then silence. Kira clutched Jake's chest. The bond is complete. But the planet, she didn't finish, because the ground behind them erupted. A jagged obsidian spire burst upward, glowing with crimson light. From within its base, a sound echoed. That chilled Jake's soul to the marrow. Not harmonic. Not even alive. Just wrong. A discordant voice. For the first time since arriving, Jake saw something in Kira's eyes that terrified him. Recognition. "It's waking," she whispered. "The Dissonance. It knows you now." And as the spire pulsed with red light and the air turned thick with pressure, Jake understood what the planet had been trying to say all along. He wasn't just here to bond. He was here to choose sides. The sky cracked. Not in lightning, not in thunder, but in tone. A fissure of sound opened above the crystal glades, rippling across the clouds like a jagged scar of silence. All the harmony, the gentle hums, the melodies from the bioluminescent trees, the pulse of the crystal towers ceased in a single breath. The world itself paused, holding its inhale. Then came the scream. It wasn't human. It wasn't Xirealian. It was the raw voice of something buried for eons, clawing toward the surface. The dissonance, the broken music of Xirelia Prime, ancient and hungry. Kira dropped to her knees as the obsidian spire continued rising from the center of the glade, now towering 3 stories high. At its apex pulsed a crimson orb, flickering with the memories of a time before resonance, before balance. Jake rushed to her side, grabbing her shoulders. "Kira! Stay with me." She clutched her temples, her voice trembling. "It's calling to me. It remembers the harmonics. It remembers my mother. And it remembers me," Jake said bitterly. The resonance cuffs on his wrists burning with heat. The planet's energy, once musical and soothing, was now churning inside him like a storm caught in a crystal jar. He felt stretched, like every cell of his body was being tuned between frequencies, his human nature pulled one way, his resonance with Kira the other. "We need to leave the glade," he said, helping her to her feet. Now, but the path behind them was gone. Where once there was grass and glowing stone, now only jagged black crystals rose, bleeding smoke and light. The spire had corrupted the land, twisting the planet's body like a poisoned limb. Kira's breathing slowed. She steadied herself and met Jake's gaze. "We can't leave." "What do you mean we can't leave?" She took his hands, pressing them against her heart. "This bond isn't just emotional. It's biological now, energetic. The Glade has rooted our union to the harmonic core. If we break it, the planet fractures." Jake stared at her. "So, we're trapped?" "We're the seal, Jake. We're what's holding the dissonance in place." And then the wind began to whisper low at first, then louder. But the voice was inside his mind now. Not spoken. Not heard. "Felt that you don't belong here, Earthborn. She is the key. Let her go, and we will spare your species." Jake staggered, clutching his head. Kira's grip tightened. "Jake, what is it?" "It's talking to me," he said, his voice rasping. "It wants you." Kira paled. "Of course it does. It's always wanted the harmonics. My mother resisted. She died to keep the frequencies pure. I was born to continue that resistance." Jake's vision blurred. The spire pulsed again, and this time memories hit him, not his own. Ancient wars fought in silence. Bonded pairs torn apart. Entire regions of Xirelia rendered mute as the dissonance spread like infection, silencing love, severing harmony. He dropped to his knees. "Why me? Why did it pick me?" Kira knelt beside him. "Because your pattern isn't like ours. You're human. Your emotional resonance is layered, chaotic, adaptive, strong. That chaos is the one thing the dissonance can't predict." He shook his head, panting. "I didn't ask for this." "No one ever does," Kira whispered. "But if you leave me now, if you break the bond, the seal fails, and everything falls." Jake looked into her eyes wide, terrified, but full of that stubborn hope he'd seen since the moment she stepped into his life holding a basket of glowing fruit and an impossible future. "We go to the core," he said suddenly. Kira blinked. "What?" "The harmonic core. If the Glade is compromised, then the source, the heart of Xirelia, is our only chance. We reinforce the bond there. Maybe we rewrite the song." Kira's voice trembled. "No one's been to the core in over 1,000 years. It's buried under half the continent, and it's surrounded by a labyrinth of dead frequencies. If we lose sync for even a moment, we'll die there." Jake stood. "Then we don't." "Lose sync." The cuffs on their wrists pulsed again, this time not in warning, but in agreement. A deep chime rang through the broken blade, and a path shimmered into existence beneath their feet, light carved from memory. The planet itself was responding. Kira rose beside him, staring in awe. "Jake, you're changing." He met her gaze. "No, I'm becoming what you already believed I could be." They stepped together onto the path, the dissonance howling in fury behind them, the spire cracking the sky like a jagged fang. Around them, the Glade trembled, torn between collapse and rebirth. And ahead, miles beneath the surface, waited the harmonic core, the place where Xirelia's fate, their love, and the ancient music of an entire world would either be mended or broken forever. They descended into silence. No more sky, no wind, no humming crystals or glowing rivers. Only the tunnel, the ancient conduit once carved by the first harmonics, now forgotten by time and swallowed by the earth. The further Jake and Kira moved into the depths beneath Xirelia, the more the air felt thick with memory. It wasn't darkness. It was history pressing in from all sides. The walls glowed faintly under their resonance cuffs, lighting their way with pale, shifting symbols. Glyphs in no known language, moving like music trapped in stone. Kira translated with a whisper. Here sang the first two. Bonded by will, not fate. Here the dissonance first fractured the sky. Jake listened, silent. Every step made him feel less human and more something else. like the planet was peeling back layers he didn't know he had. The resonance between him and Kira had grown stronger, no longer requiring touch. Even a glance from her now sent a shiver through his body. They were entwined, one song playing on two instruments. At last, they reached the final chamber. Harmonic core, a vast, spherical cavern stretched before them, its ceiling lined with floating shards of crystal orbiting a pulsing, radiant heart. The core hung suspended in midair, held aloft by sound itself, a deep, constant tone that vibrated. Through the bones and skin and soul. Jake staggered slightly as the resonance hit him. Kira caught his arm. This is it, the true rhythm of Xirelia, the planet's original song. It's beautiful, Jake whispered. It's dying, she replied. Indeed, the core flickered. The melody it emitted was uneven straining. Dissonant pulses bled. And from above, corrupting the orbiting shards. The black spire they'd left behind had infected even this sacred place. Suddenly, the core pulsed violently. A shockwave slammed into them. The glyphs on the walls flared red. The chamber screamed, and then it appeared. A form emerged from the shadows, amorphous and shifting, made of shattered frequencies and broken memory. Not a creature, not a god. A tear and music itself. The Dissonance. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. Its presence filled the chamber with crushing pressure, like every regret and sorrow Xirelia had ever known was alive and staring through Jake's eyes. Kira gasped, stumbling. Her hands clutched at her chest. Jake dropped to his knees. His cuff was glowing white-hot. Their bond was unraveling under the weight. You can't have her, Jake growled, forcing himself upright. The Dissonance surged forward. Kira reached for him, but her strength was fading. Her voice trembled. It wants the harmonic bloodline. It wants to end the song. Then we rewrite the chorus, Jake whispered, dragging himself to the core's edge. The ancient melodies swirled. Around him now, dying, gasping, but somewhere beneath them, he heard something else. His song. Not Xirelian, not ancient, human, grief, love, fury, hope. He reached into himself, into the chaos of human emotion, and pushed it into the resonance. Not order, not balance. Honest imperfection. The core flared. The Dissonance shrieked, no longer quiet, no longer shapeless. It howled in agony, unable to process what Jake offered. I'm not perfect, Jake said, his voice rising as his cuff shattered from the force, white light pouring from his skin. I'm not harmonic, but I love her. And love isn't a song that needs to be in tune. It just needs to be true. Kira screamed his name. Jake stepped into the core. There was no floor beneath him. Only light, only vibration, only her. There. Resonance snapped into place one last time. He felt her mind, her spirit, her past, her joy and her fear. He gave her his in return. His pain, his desire, his truth. The core sang. Every crystal in the chamber responded. The Dissonance cracked, howling in disintegration. Its scream fractured into shards of sound, then scattered, burned away by the sheer force of connection, of truth, of love unafraid. To be flawed. When the light faded, Jake awoke lying on a bed of soft moss, cradled in Kira's arms. Her skin shimmered like morning dew, her golden hair woven with tiny strands of glowing crystal. She was crying. Don't ever do that again, she whispered. He smiled weakly. I thought I'd lost you. You almost lost yourself, she said, pressing her forehead to his. But you found the core. You changed the song. I just sang what I felt, Jake murmured, and the planet listened. Above them, the resonance pulsed with a new tone, one never recorded in the memory vaults. Something richer, wilder. A blend of chaos and harmony. Something entirely new. Something human. They stayed there for a long time. curled in each other's arms, listening to the reborn melody of a saved world. Weeks later, the Harmonic Council declared a new age of unity. Kira was named guardian of the new song. Jake was given full residency, Xirelia's first true Earthborn bondmate. On the night of their joining ceremony, this time by choice, not assignment, Kira wore a gown woven from crystal threads gifted by the core itself. Jake wore his Earth-made jacket, scuffed and worn, over Xirelian robes. Together, they stood before both their worlds and rewrote what bonding meant forever. And as Kira leaned in to whisper with a mischievous smile, "So, ready for our real honeymoon this time?" Jake only grinned and said, "Anywhere, as long as you're there." The planet hummed in quiet agreement.